You ever had one of those mornings where the universe just decides to test how much coffee it takes before you snap? Well, that was me, standing in my driveway in nothing but boxers and an old t-shirt, holding a mug that still had steam rising off it, when I realized there was a tow truck halfway backed up to my Ford. I didn't even think. I just yelled, "Hey, that's my damn truck," and marched barefoot across the concrete. The driver froze like a kid caught stealing cookies. But the real showstopper was the woman standing beside him, arms crossed, clipboard in hand like it was a sheriff's badge. Curly blonde hair, sunglasses big enough to block an eclipse, and that permanent smirk that said she ran this place. She tilted her chin and said, "I'm Brenda Maxwell, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association." She let it hang there like she expected a drum roll. Then she stabbed her pen toward my truck. "That vehicle violates our guidelines. It's unsightly." I almost spit out my coffee. "Lady, that's my driveway. That's my personal truck. I've lived here 7 years, never had an issue." She didn't even flinch. "The board passed an amendment last month. No commercial vehicles. That rack makes it commercial. Now here's the thing. I'm a carpenter. That rack is literally how I carry lumber, ladders, everything that puts food on my table. Without it, my truck's just a truck." So I stepped closer to the tow guy, dropped my voice low, and said, "Touch my truck again, and I'll have you up for trespassing." He backed off so quick I thought he might trip over his own winch cable. But Brenda wasn't letting go. She huffed, "You can't threaten contractors. That's another violation." Then she pulled out her phone like she was about to summon some HOA cavalry. I pointed to the edge of my driveway. "You're on my land, Brenda. You don't get to rewrite the law because you've got a clipboard." She gave me that smug little smile and said, "You'll be hearing from the board." And I'll be honest, I almost let it go right there. Almost. But the truth was, I had a secret up my sleeve. Something I dug up months earlier when these people tried to bully me into repainting my house beige. See, when I looked into the county archives, I found out my lot, and the entire strip of road it sits on, was never deeded to the HOA. Never annexed. The pavement, the drains, the easements, they were all mine. Legally, I owned the street they were trying to police. So later that afternoon, I drove down to the county office, got fresh certified copies of everything, tucked them under my arm, and thought, yeah, let's see how Brenda handles this. The very next day, I walked into their monthly board meeting. Picture a windowless clubhouse that smelled like stale carpet and powdered coffee creamer. Half the neighbors were only there for the free cookies. And right in the middle, there was Brenda, flanked by her loyal lieutenants. Greg, the Bluetooth warrior who never removed his earpiece, and Doris, who once tried to fine a neighbor for putting up a scarecrow in September. Brenda looked up as I walked in with my tube of documents. She sneered, "Public comment starts later." I set the papers down in front of her and said, "I'm not here for comment. I'm here for correction." The room went quiet. A couple folks perked up like they knew something spicy was coming. I unrolled the subdivision plat across the table, weighed down the corners with copies of my deed, zoning reports, and a notarized letter from the original developer's estate. Then I leaned in and said, "You fine me for breaking rules you don't even have the authority to enforce. Because this street, Willow Bend Lane, it's mine. And it always has been." Greg squinted at the plat. "That can't be right. We maintain the grass, the mailboxes. That's landscaping. I cut in. The pavement, the drains, the right-of-way, all mine. You should have checked before playing king of the cul-de-sac." Doris mumbled something about mistakes, but Brenda doubled down. "Even if that were true, you're still under HOA rules. This community voted." I slid the back page of my deed across to her. "Except my lot was never annexed. No vote, no signature, no consent. Which means your rules stop at the edge of my property line." And then I dropped the hammer. "Since I own this street, your security patrols driving up and down every day? They're trespassing too. Unless they ask my permission, they're not allowed here." The silence that followed, man, you could have heard a cookie crumble. From that moment on, it wasn't just about me or my truck. Neighbors started coming out of the woodwork. One by one, they knocked on my door with their own stories. Fines for tomatoes planted too close to the sidewalk, porch lights that were too bright, even a wind chime violation. Most of the time, people just paid because fighting felt impossible. But once they saw me stand up, they realized maybe it wasn't. We sat around my kitchen table with stacks of letters, bylaws, and spreadsheets. And what we found was worse than nitpicky rules. The board was inventing fines out of thin air, funneling money through fake consulting firms, some tied directly to Brenda's relatives. Tens of thousands of dollars were vanishing into thin air. I took everything to the sheriff's office, spreadsheets, affidavits, even the financial statements I'd forced them to hand over by law. The detective just shook his head and said, "This isn't just mismanagement. This is felony-level embezzlement." And sure enough, a week later, I was sweeping my porch when an unmarked SUV rolled up to Brenda's house. Two plainclothes officers knocked, showed her the warrant, and she melted faster than butter on a skillet. Within days, Greg and Doris were hauled in too. Their bank accounts frozen, their excuses falling apart. That night, 100 of us packed into the park, not under the HOA, just as neighbors. We voted to dissolve the board, to write new bylaws that focused on transparency, cooperation, and fairness. No more clipboards, no more bogus fines. And for the first time in years, we threw a block cookout. No permits, no inspectors, just burgers sizzling, kids running through sprinklers, and even the crankiest couple brought lemonade. Later, one of my neighbors, a quiet guy named Mark, pulled me aside and asked, "Did you ever think you'd be the one to change the whole neighborhood?" I laughed. Man, I just didn't want my truck towed. But here's the kicker. Months later, after the fraud charges piled up, wire fraud, conspiracy, obstruction, the whole board faced trial. And me? I filed paperwork to permanently remove my property and my street from HOA jurisdiction. It went through without a hitch. They didn't even bother contesting. Now when I look out at Willow Bend, I see kids drawing chalk on the sidewalks, neighbors waving without fear of some letter in the mailbox, and my truck, still parked right where it belongs, with a brand new license plate that reads OWNROAD. And you know what? No one has ever tried to tow it again. So here's my question for you. What do you think? Was I right to fight back the way I did, or did I go too far? Do HOAs keep neighborhoods safe and clean, or are they just power trips waiting to explode? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I promise you, this story is going to hit nerves on both sides.